Go deeper. We're looking at mundane, which is kind of mundane in itself. The word mundane, it just makes you go, it's mundane. But actually, most of our lives is not the finishing line. Most of our lives is striving to get to the finishing line. And if you ever watch a race, you can see the people who, they're not going to make it. They're too tired, they've worn themselves out, they've gone too fast, too quickly, they've not eaten the right foods, they had a bad night's sleep, and all of a sudden they're starting to sink down and flounder and sink, and often that's life. That's a lot of life. For everybody. It can sound quite depressing, the mundane of life. But it's also most of life. Not being depressed and boring, but actually living a life, whether you're a Christian or not, actually a lot of what we do is quite the same. We go to work, we do a 9 to 5, we go to bed, we pay our taxes, we have to clean the toilet, we have to eat food and go shopping. This is the norm. There's nothing particularly exciting about shopping, but it's something we have to do. If we want to eat, we have to buy food. If we want to buy food, we have to have money. If we want to have money, we have to have a job. It's kind of the circle of life. Not quite like the film with the lion, but anyway. Let's read this scripture out. Hebrews chapter 12, and it's the first 6 verses. We often get to the race bit, and there's a bit after which is really important. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. All good stuff. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And this is a bit we can skip if we want to stop there. But yeah, it's good. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. That's the mundane. In your struggle against sin, you have not resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you completely forgotten this word of encouragement that addresses you as a father addresses his son? It says, my son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. And that was the NIV for that one. The mundane. One of the greatest lies I think that we can teach our children, and we accept as a society, we say to our children, you can be whatever you want to be, do whatever you want to do, and it's utter rubbish. It's a complete lie. It's a fallacy. It's not based in reality. It's not based in truth. Really sad was hearing a teacher say, oh, what job do you want to do? Came up in the primary school. Or what do you want to be when you want to be older? And normal answers, a firefighter and a police service, and I want to go into the army, and I want to be a teacher or whatever. Or I want to be famous. And the teacher inquired more, what do you mean by that? Well, I want to be a celebrity. Well, what does that mean to you? Well, it means I can influence people and be famous. Yeah, but for what? Influence them for what? Oh, I don't know. I just want to be famous. Because that's what looks attractive. And we see people who've got money and power and fame. And when you think of King Solomon in scripture, we realise, you know what? This King Solomon had everything that anybody could ever have, and beyond more than that. And it was never enough. It just wasn't. It became mundane and boring. And when we're running the race, as Christians, we often don't have to shed blood in order to work for Christ, to be a Christian, to be a disciple, to be an ambassador, a reflector of Jesus' life. We don't often shed blood. I have many, many years ago. Because of my faith, I was physically hurt, and I was abused quite a long time by some of the kids in school, and I shed blood. Not to the point of death, but because of my faith, because I wouldn't shut up about the fact I love Jesus. You're a Bible basher, and eventually they sometimes try to kill me one day, and they didn't succeed, thank God. But I was hurt quite badly because of my faith. That happens all around the world today. That was one incident many, many years ago. There are people who live with this every day. So what's the mundane? What's this? There is no success thing. Well, you can't say to your child, you can be whatever you want to be, or be whoever you want to be, or whatever you want to be, because it's utter rubbish. It's great to encourage our children and to push ourselves to have dreams. We've got a great speak truth image that Stephen came up with, which I'll show you. But you can't be what you want to be, and you can't do what you want to do. We have limitations upon us. If you want to be, I don't know, you want to be in the mountain rescue and you don't have the use of your legs because you're in a wheelchair, you can't do that. You can work for the mountain rescue, but you can't be going up and down the mountains. It's not going to happen. God might heal you. Amazing, it happens. But there are limitations to our life, and we have two ways of looking at limitations. One, we can think, oh, I can't do it. gets us quite depressed. Or we think, well, I can't do this, so what can I do with what I have? And that can be really liberating. Children, we all love discipline. We love the idea of boundaries. We love that. We thrive on that. Discipline's a bit of a word, or it's a bit harsh. Well, discipline is what you do, isn't it? When you set your alarm clock in the morning, you set yourself some discipline. You discipline yourself by having an alarm clock that wakes you up at a certain time. Discipline. If you want to go running, you discipline yourself to have the right food, to go to bed at the right time, to oil your chain on your bike before you go cycling. There we discipline ourselves to do all sorts of things. And that's all this is talking about. There's a great bit in Proverbs which you want to look at. Proverbs 27, Proverbs 27:17. This is the Street Bible because it just puts a nice spin on it. As iron sharpens up iron, so people can sharpen each other. And when we're running a race, or you watch a race on TV, cycling, whatever it happens to be, when people start cheering and shouting that person on with encouragement, they do amazing things. When we say to our children, you can be whatever you want to be, we're not encouraging, we're discouraging, because they'll be discouraged because they'll discover they can't do what they want to do. We have to work towards things. We have to work towards goals. It doesn't mean to say we don't have dreams. It means we've got to be more realistic about who we are and what we can do. We still need teachers and plumbers and builders and engineers and truck drivers, and they're not necessarily the most exciting of jobs. Well, I was a trucker and I love that. But they're not necessarily the most exciting. We want to be the famous people and the celebrities, but we also know in reality it doesn't breed comfort or happiness or joy. It doesn't do that. There's enough famous people in life who've thrown away the money because they realised that, you know what, I hit this level with the money and I was still really depressed, so I got rid of it. I'm happier now. When we're thinking about racing, cycling, dancing, whether it's ballet or something more modern where we're thinking about playing basketball or baseball or rugby or football, there is an element of discipline for us to achieve what we want to do, because the goal might be scoring a try in rugby, it might be crossing the finish line first, but before the finishing line there's a whole race we've got to get along. And that can feel really mundane and really hard. You're grinding away, you're pedaling. That's more my thing. And you're pedaling away and you're thinking, gosh, where is the end? I'm never ever going to get to the end of this cycle. And there are parts where you want to give up, but you keep going. And when you keep going, it can feel mundane, but that mundane is actually the growth. That's the strength in us. And when we get weak, that's when the strength of Christ comes within us. Because that mundane is when God can move in us. That mundane, that's the normal life for most people. And it's not a sad thing, it's not a depressing thing. Actually, when we realise the reality of life is really exciting, because there are boundaries and there are things we can't do. So rather than trying to cross boundaries we can't get past, we should be thinking, well, if I only do this much within this boundary, this little circle I've got, how can I be everything I can be within this circle? How can I be the best I can be at this? And then we can find satisfaction when we work for Christ, when we do what he's asking us to do. We find peace, we find contentment and comfort and joy that just spills out of us. So the mundane can drive us down, or we can accept the mundane is quite normal. Feelings past, that sense of I'm tired, I'm never going to get to the end of this cycle, race, getting to work, whatever. I'm never going to get to the end. Actually, we will. Feelings pass, they fade, they come and they go. That's why we should never base our life on how we feel. Feelings are great things for emotions, to keep a check on ourselves and to be aware, and it's like warning signs really on a dashboard. But feelings come and they go, and we should never trust our feelings to dictate what we do. What we should do is come back to Christ and say, Lord, what is it you want me to do? So if you're struggling with the mundane and you think, you know what, my life is really boring, and I go to work and I earn some money and I go shopping and I go to bed and that's my day, and it's like rinse, repeat, and that's it. That's most people. So don't feel like you're on your own. We all struggle. We all want exciting new things all the time. But when we have a relationship with God, every day is a new day. And iron sharpens iron. It can be misconstrued in some ways, but actually, when you think about a blacksmith making a sword or whatever, there's no gentle tapping. They're whacking this thing with a great big hammer. They're getting it really hot. There's sparks flying off. Iron sharpens iron is not necessarily a gentle process. The mundane can drive us down, but let's be encouraged. Let's be excited to keep going. Let's encourage the people around us. We all have those moments when we think, you know what, I'm really down. I'm really depressed. Life is too mundane. It's too boring. It's too the same. We've got to carry on through, like hitting a tennis ball, like striking a cricket ball, like hitting a baseball. You don't just hit it, you follow through. And that follow through, well, it's a bit pointless because the ball's already gone. But actually that follow through is really important, because that follow through, when you speak to the experts, that determines where the ball goes, where it spins, how it's turning, where it's going to go, how hard it goes. That follow through is a really important part. That follow through is those moments in life when you think, this is really boring or really mundane. So let's carry on with the follow through. Let's work on trusting Jesus Christ to guide us in our lives. Let's not let our feelings dictate to us. And when life gets mundane, let's keep going, knowing there's a goal to achieve. But to get to the goal, we've got to keep going. So keep going.